Assalamu alaikum, namaste, hotep, shalom alaikum, peace. This is Tracy Lene Muhammad, and I wanted a few moments of your time to talk about pain and suffering, the differences between the two, and perhaps to give you some ways to alleviate the suffering after the pain has already dissipated. I like incense, and I have my cauldron with a disc incense, a coal burner in it, and I'm going to put a little bit of myrrh on it because it's what I want. And it's a ritual done by Native Americans to use a feather. The feather can represent angels in some schools of thought, seeing angels when you see feathers. I wanted to make sure that my headspace was proper. I believe that each of us has a divine responsibility to share information when we've gotten it and it works for us, not to push it on you or to tell you this is the only way, but perhaps this is one of the ways. So for me, meditation, ritual work with either oracle cards, crystals, or sitting in deep meditation or tapping works for me. So I'm sharing that with you. I also journal, and I don't know why I'm picking up a journal like you don't know what a book is, but it's props. The journal. Every day, every morning, I get up and I list 5 things that I am grateful for and why I am grateful for them. I'm currently enrolled in an amazing spiritual course. If you're interested in finding out more about her, if you inbox me, or if you're watching this straight from YouTube, if you send me a message, I will connect you with her. It's been a fabulous experience helping me to take my higher self even higher. I don't believe in religion anymore. And when I say I don't believe in it, I'm saying I don't need a set of religious guides to get me connected to my higher power. When I was a little girl, I was raised in the church, and I wholeheartedly believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I prayed to Jesus. I slept with the Bible in my bed. I wrote Jesus letters all the time. I was fully committed to that path. And on that path, I learned a lot. But that path led me to Islam, and I joined the Nation of Islam. I don't regret one moment of my time spent in there because I learned so much more, and I truly believe that Allah appeared in the person of Mustafa Muhammad. I believe in the minister. I believe in the messenger. Those things hold true for me. And coming through the Nation of Islam is what has given me this foundation to take my wings in what I've learned and to fly. But I recognize that some of the things that I've accepted on my path are not available in the Nation of Islam, and so I have to be true to myself, and I've veered into another path. Some may say that I'm on the wrong path, and that's okay. I didn't even, that's the people pleaser in me that felt like I needed to explain all of that, when really I came here to talk about pain and suffering. This is difficult for me. I want to be my truest self, but there are so many parts of me that are afraid of not being accepted. I suffered for many years from the syndrome of people pleasing, wanting people to like me. And I did it in a different way. Some people, when they want people to like them, they will be completely untrue to who they are. But I did it in a way, I was always giving and giving. Like I could literally have just bought something for myself. But if somebody wanted it, or I thought, let's just give it to them. Oh, just give it away. I would do that. I would go so far as to be in spaces where I would only have a few dollars for food for my own family and find out that there was somebody hungry and just give that to them and say, well, Allah's going to give me some food later. And what Spirit did once is didn't give me anything, so that I would stop doing that, because that's foolish. It's self first. Islam, all religions really teach you to take care of yourself first. So back to pain and suffering. When events happen in our lives that cause us pain, the pain hits us in our heart. I'm talking about mental events like betrayal from a relationship, or a friendship, or finding out that the people that are caring for you aren't your parents or just different things. Now, I'm not qualified to talk about incest or rape or murder of a child. I've never experienced those things. So please, if those are your painful experiences, I don't ever want to make you think I'm saying, oh, just brush that off, because I don't know what that feels like. I'm speaking of the hurts of betrayal in a relationship, where it's whether it's a marriage or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or friends, or whatever. You put your trust into someone and then they let you down, or they betrayed you, or they really showed you that they're not really good people. This saying goes around a lot, the saying of, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And taking that face value, it seems like it's saying, if somebody betrays you or neglects you or does something that doesn't feel right to you, believe them and leave them alone. And that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is believing it and then deciding how they can fit into your life if that's what you want. You may decide to just love them from afar. You may decide to keep them in your life, but expecting them to be different from what they've shown you is where you make the mistake and where you suffer. That's not pain. The pain is when you found out that this person wasn't loyal or faithful or kind, or any of what you found out would hit you. But once you found it out, that's the pain. When you continue expecting them to be different, that's suffering. And suffering is a choice. I'm going to put some more on the charcoal because it's keeping me in a really good headspace. So pain and suffering, two different things. I've had pains in my life. Some I've brought on myself. Some I believe I've allowed them all in, because I also subscribe to that school of thought. I've heard Will Smith say it recently. What happened in your life may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to deal with it and to make the best out of the situation for you. I also wanted to talk about character and how character is built. So if you're very, very, very wealthy and you give your wealth out to people, you share it, that doesn't necessarily mean you have a high character, because you have some to spare. But when you are in a very tight space and you give out, that's character. If somebody hurts you, I'm going to use an example, and I'm not speaking about myself. I'm just using an example. There's a couple, and one of the couples commits adultery. And then the other party that didn't commit it goes out and does the same thing. Well, that's just showing your character. It doesn't mean that tit for tat, just means your character was there. Or this is another example. You're very, very hungry and you go into a store and you steal. You just wanted to be a thief. The opportunity to become a thief came about because you didn't have money, because you could have asked somebody that you know to loan you some money to feed yourself or your family. And if you don't know anybody with any money, you got the wrong circle, baby. You should have somebody in your circle that can help you out from time to time. You can't keep staying there and keep taking from people and taking from people and taking from people, because then people are going to get tired of you. But your circle should include people who can help lift you up. So if you, who we really are shows up when the rubber meets the road. You really find out who a person is when a painful situation enters their life. They show you who they are. So when they show you who they are and you believe them, then you have the choice to not suffer. You may decide, well, I'm going to keep this person in my life, but I'm going to understand their limits and what they can bring into my life, and I'm not going to expect more of them. You may decide, nope, peace out, can't do you no more. Whatever you decide, it's a personal choice, and you should make it. But the suffering piece of it, if like I'm 50 years old, and when I was in the 9th grade, I really liked this boy, but he liked one of my friends, a distant friend, not a close friend, a distant friend. But I didn't know that when I was chasing behind him and really liking him. But she knew that he liked her, and she knew that I was chasing behind him. And instead of telling me, he don't like you, he like me, she allowed me to make a fool out of myself. I made the fool out of myself because I just kept chasing behind this boy that didn't want nothing to do with me. And eventually, this boy that I gave my virginity to, because I liked him so much and thought, okay, well, if I give him my virginity, he's going to love me. This boy that I did all of this for liked somebody else. So it was his fault that he didn't tell me he liked her, and her fault that she didn't tell me. But it was my responsibility to say, you know what? He doesn't like me. He likes her. Now I've done this act. It's done. What's next? But what I did instead is spent the next 3 years of high school suffering behind bullshit. Oh, I really like him. He didn't like me. He liked her. And I didn't talk to either one of them. And I made this whole story out of one event of pain I suffered until I got to college and met somebody else. And that saying, how do you get over one person, get under another? I'm joking, Muslims. Well, I thought like that then. Anywho, so then I meet somebody else and I'm like, okay, this is the love of my life, which truly it wasn't. But I was young and I stopped suffering. I let that suffering go to move on to the next painful experience in which I would suffer again. And this would repeat itself through different relationships, mostly because I hadn't decided to love myself. Mostly because I had decided that suffering was this badge of honor because I'm this great person and how could you do this to me, and I'm so loyal and I'm so faithful. And I did that repeatedly until one day, Union Temple Baptist Church, I went to Reverend Wilson and I'm just boo-hooing over some guy about, oh, why doesn't he love me, and he won't give me the time of day, and he's using me, and why won't he just be honest? And Reverend Wilson said he's been honest. He's been telling you he doesn't really want you that way, but you continue to suffer. So I learned then to stop suffering and to move on, and I started the journey to self-love, to just love Tracy and to start to get to know Tracy. But I didn't have all of the tools available like I do now to get from really loving myself to understanding how to release suffering and how the pain is done. Once something happened, like if I hope this doesn't happen later, but if I stub my toe, when I stub my toe, I feel that pain. And the pain may last, 3-4 minutes? But the pain is done. But what happens is, wherever I stub my toe, every time I go back by there, if I keep feeling that pain from it, I haven't moved on from it. And if I continue to suffer, and if I broke my foot, of course, I got to get that fixed. You'd have to fix it. But what I'm saying is, once the painful event happens, within 28 to 48 hours, the pain of it is done. The realization, it's done. The suffering is up to you. Suffering is a choice. Pain is inevitable. You're gonna get hurt. I heard Minister Farrakhan say once that when something happens in your life, instead of saying, why me, God? Well, why not you? What is it that you can learn? Now, I'm of the thought process that we come to the earth school to learn, to gather more information, to keep going higher and higher on the spiritual ladder, like we are spiritual beings having a human experience to get to a higher spiritual level. I'm of the thought process that there is no higher power operating outside of me without connecting to me, but because I'm created by that higher power, I am an extension of it, so I'm always connected. I'm also of the school of thought that the higher power, and whatever name you call it, is not trying to just punish me or just paying attention to my vagina to see how I'm using it. That's all on me. If I decide to dishonor myself and allow myself to be taken by men who mean nothing to me or mean nothing for me, I'm bringing in that spiritual energy, because I believe that every time you lay with someone, you are bringing in their spiritual energy into your being. And I believe the reason why the Creator does not want you to commit adultery when you have connected yourself to another spirit is because now you're bringing in somebody else's spirit, and that spirit may not mean you good. It's not compatible with you because you, first of all, you didn't ask for it to be brought in. So if they're bringing it in, they're now connecting you without your permission, and that's betrayal. Without permission, you are bringing in somebody else's energy into my body, and now I am reacting in ways that I don't quite understand because I didn't ask for this. But there are rituals to break those ties and all of that as well. The painful part of an event, if you write it all out. I did this course many years ago when I dealt with a severe betrayal called Radical Forgiveness, and it worked for me. Radical forgiveness is when, on the first day, you need to be alone for this, because, and you probably need, if you're anything like me and you're overly dramatic, you need about 3 hours where you can write out everything of that situation. I mean, just everything, and take no responsibility. I mean, just blast the person. You no good motherfucker, you this, you that. I mean, just go for it. Let go of all pretenses of, oh, I should be nice, and just let it all out, but write it out, because writing takes it from here to the physical, and now you can deal with it because you can see it. So that's day one. Go to sleep, a dream cycle. Probably going to have some interesting dreams. Write them out as well. Day two, take some time and you write the story, but now you're reframing it a little bit where you're willing to take a little responsibility. Not a whole lot, but a little. Like, or you're willing to give them some benefit of the doubt, like, well, you know, you grew up in such a way that this was accepted, or you saw this, you know, if somebody is in an abusive relationship, perhaps the person abusing them saw abuse, and so you can say, well, you know, I can see how you would think that this is okay because you were abused, you saw abuse, so, and you give them a little leeway. You don't still take full responsibility, but you just give them some leeway. Another dream cycle. The next day, total reframing, total just, you know what? All of this happened, but it was for my good. Because if I believe, and if you believe, and if we believe collectively that there is a higher power and nothing happens without the permission of that higher power, then that higher power allowed it. So guess what? It was for my good. I may not see it just yet, but perhaps it was to show me some things I need to change, or some growth for me, or some karma, because I also believe that karma attaches from souls, you know, for every time our soul comes back here. And I forgive you. I'm forgiving you not because you're this great, amazing, wonderful person who happened to do something wrong, but because I'm this great, amazing, wonderful person who has just decided to not accept bullshit, and I need to get it off of me. That's radical forgiveness. That's a great way. Colin Tippin is the person who taught me radical forgiveness. That's one way. Then you also can use a process in Scientology called Dianetics, and that works for people. It did work for me. It got me up some ladders. And in Dianetics, you're telling the story with somebody present. You can Google the Dianetics, because I've already been on. It's 18 minutes. 18 is my number. So I know that if you're listening this long, I'm truly grateful for your time, and I don't want to waste it. You can Google Dianetics. You can also Google tapping, the EFT, emotional freedom technique, to release. That worked for me so well. This is a technique that I kind of brought up myself. I'm pretty sure somebody else has done it. I'm not claiming that it's mine. I'm not trademarking it, but this is what's been working for me. So I sit in a comfortable position and I just kind of relax. I may, you know, say some on my throat, because the throat chakra, the A sound, opens up your throat. So you may go and you can do it 7 times. And after I've done that, then I can write out everything, and I write it out and then I read it out loud so that I have it. Then I take a match and I burn that motherfucker. Or I sit and I collect it all in with an in-breath. Excuse me. So I take a deep in-breath in, like, and as I'm taking it in, I kind of feel it coming from my cells. I take my mind and imagine that it's coming from my cells. The pain, the hurt, the betrayal, all of it just coming, right up to the tip of my throat. And then I say, and I let it all out. When I let it out, I'm not worried about somebody else picking up on it, because the universe is really this perfect place that takes our energy and turns it good. I read the other day that emotion stands for energy in motion. So our emotions are just our energy in motion. So sadness, fear, worry, all of those things are just where we are. So I don't vibrate in fear often, because I've learned that fear is just an absence of God. Because if I truly trust that God, divine mother, Allah, whatever name you choose, to that act, that universe, whatever it is, loves me and created me, then I always have access to it. And I believe in karma. So if I done did something, something's gonna be done to me. And it doesn't normally come back in the way that I sent it out. I also have accepted that when somebody thinks that they're betraying me or hurting me or using me, that's their shit, and they're gonna get it back. May not be in the Holy Quran says, and I'm paraphrasing, don't you worry about what's going to happen to them for what they did to you. Your duty is to me, meaning my duty is to truth and to show up right, and to not allow myself to then. So I've seen this happen where married couples having a lot of issues and they're yelling and screaming at each other, and then they turn around and take it out on the children. So now this little child is like scared because you're mommy and you're yelling at me because maybe daddy yelled at you. Now, I've been guilty of being in that position where I've been so stressed over something and just yell at my children for the silliest things. But I've also been able to go back and not only ask them to forgive me, but to make up for that. And I don't do that anymore. I now, if I'm real in a space, I'll say, I just need a minute. Let me kind of go off to myself. Give me a minute. And I do that even in my marriage when I feel like I'm just going to come across really rude. I say, yeah, let me take a minute to let go of some stuff that I'm dealing with that really has nothing to do with the other person. So pain and suffering. Pain, inevitable. It's going to happen in your life. Suffering, choice. You don't have to suffer. Religion will have us to believe that when you get married, you got to stay married for life no matter what. Through rich and through poorness, through sickness and health, until physical death do you part. That's bullshit. And that's not even what the Creator expects of us. That is a religious way to keep people in bondage. And in Islam, well, I've heard them say, well, Allah hates divorce, but it doesn't say he doesn't permit it. It said he hates it. And I can understand the hatred of it, but he doesn't say, yeah, I know that nigga kicking your ass, but you stay with him. He doesn't say that. Now, if people are watching this that are offended by that word, it just came out of me, and I honor what comes out of me, but I apologize if I offended you, because that's never my intention to offend anybody. But that's that part of me that still has some broken pieces and may use terms that are painful to my own people. So I apologize, and I apologize to the ancestors for that, because that's not what I ever want to do. So, but I did want to express that back to what I was saying about religion and staying in unhealthy relationships. That's not God, to stay in an unhealthy relationship. And I did hear I know in Catholicism, there's never a reason to get a divorce, but Christianity says, well, if somebody commits adultery, then you can get a divorce. But it doesn't say if somebody's kicking your butt, you can get a divorce, which is interesting. Anywho, in Islam, we are taught as well that if it makes you other than yourself, and what other than yourself means is you are now not able to function as this amazing being with this person, bye-bye, and then you find somebody that you can function as an amazing being with. But you do try and you do the work. But if you consistently are trying and they are not trying at all, or they're lying to you, or they're just so broken in so many spaces, then it's time to say bye-bye, peace out, wishing you the best, and then letting go of the suffering, the woe is me syndrome, and understanding that we are never, ever alone. We are always with ourselves. We are always with the Creator. So there's no aloneness in that. Let me tell you what I think is a funny story. You may think it's funny too. I was in Costco, and I talk to myself, and I talk out loud to myself. I'll ask myself questions out loud, and I'll even answer them. I heard once, so, it's okay if you talk to yourself, just don't answer. But that doesn't make sense if I'm ignoring myself. Anywho, I was in Costco, and I was having a full conversation, just talking through some things in my head, a situation that I was dealing with and trying to process. And this man who was flirting, he looks over at me. He said, you know what? I looked over there twice. Ain't nobody around her, and she talking. And I said, and she too damn fine to be so crazy. You talking to yourself? And I looked at him. I said, indeed I am. He said, why are you in the store talking to yourself? I said, because I like intelligent conversation. And then I walked off. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. Anywho, I still think it's funny. Anywho, processing from the pain, taking the pain away and the suffering, and then accepting responsibility for how I allowed it in my life. You know, you ever notice that women who are battered usually continue to meet a stream of men who will beat them up? There's something going on in that woman that she's not taking responsibility for, that she's drawing that to her. I've never had that. I can't even imagine, and I'm not taking light of it. But I think there's something about this 5'7", 200-pound woman that says, put your hands on me and it ain't going to end well. And you don't want your mama to have to start pouring libations. But could be that. I think that I just vibrate too high. But there are definitely things that I've brought into my life that are painful. And I recognize that it was because of a lack of self-love and self-accountability. And when I learned to love myself to this level of just kind of like, yeah, I'm on my own D type of thing, people fall away because they can't handle that. I made, because I believe in rituals, what's called a self-love jar. Google it. Google, you know what? One of my friends and I were saying, we're like, you know who the higher power is? Google, because Google know everything. But anyway, I Googled how to make a self-love jar, and when I hold it, the energy in this jar is so magnificent. I keep it on my altar, but I have a little one that I put in my purse. When I start to get, or when something comes up from the past that I need to let go of, I can use that. If you've listened this long, this is great. So I'm going to give you a ritual that you can do, a breathing exercise that you can do that will allow you, if you're out in public and you're just beginning to have a lot of anxiety, you can do, and people may not notice that's what you're doing, and it's the breathing in 4. I've talked about this before in another video, but it's when you inhale, count to 4 slowly, hold that inhale for 4, and then exhale, counting from 4 slowly out of the nose. It's all in and out of the nose. And about 5 or 6 rounds of that, followed immediately by 5 things that you are grateful for, and why you're grateful for them will pull you in a better space. And sometimes the only thing you can be grateful for is that you could breathe, and that's okay. I want to thank you so very much for your time and your attention. Your support means a lot to me. You can subscribe to my channel. You can share it. This is what I call my Not Your Grandmother sweater. It, as you can see, covers the top part. It's sleeveless, but it lets you kind of be a little freer on the inside. I think it's kind of jacked up. I can make it for you in any color you'd like. It's lightweight, so like if you're going on a cruise or something, you just want to throw something on over top of what you're wearing, or you're in the movie theater, and wherever you want, I can make one for you, and it is $50. The reason it's $50 is because I'm doing everything from fabric to finish. I'm not a little Guatemalan girl being paid 25 cents an hour to make your clothes so you can pay $10 for it. I just wanted to let you know that I could do that, and I want to again thank you for your time, and I greet you in every way that I know how. The first is Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you. Namaste, which means my light respects your light. Shalom alaikum, which means peace. Hotep, which means peace. And peace. Have an amazing day. Thank you. The battery in the little shutter thing, I left it on, so I got to do it like this.